On today's show, the LA Clippers come from behind to beat a Jalen Brunson-less Knicks team at MSG, and Kawhi Leonard and James Harden are showing everybody, along with Ivica Zubac, why this team is almost at peak form and why you don't want to play them in the playoffs. Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On 6 Seed. Give it to me, Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA. Been a Clipper fan for 20 years, been covering the Clippers on my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for 5 years, and Locked On Clippers right here for 3 years. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get make sure you subscribe on YouTube for both channels or to both channels, and of course, follow wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, Locked On Clippers now has a daily newsletter written by yours truly. Go to lockedondaily.com to sign up for it. And this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download Game Time today. But we've got a game to talk about, Clipper Nation, and it was a fun one. It was a gritty game. It was a little bit of a slugfest for a lot of it, but the Clippers come out on top. And I'm going to tell you why every single game we have a chance to win with this team. Every single game. That's not the same as every single series, but every single game. So maybe you can say that each game is different. Maybe that means you can win a series. I just don't know if we're better than certain teams 4 out of 7 times, but this applies to some other teams as well. But for us, I'm going to talk about why we do such a great job of staying in every game. And then Kawhi Watch is not just Kawhi Watch tonight. It's Kawhi God mode. Kawhi is back. Kawhi was making Clyde Frazier and Mike Breen go absolutely berserk. And then the Harden heater. How about a little bit of Zoo, a little bit of Nico, a little bit of everything. Clipper Nation, we are looking pretty good. Norman Powell played again. James Harden somehow started. I mean, are you kidding me with this guy? He is playing at a level in which he wants to put on for the fans, and I really appreciate that. But this whole team, there's a reason we stay in every game. We have a level of defensive resilience that we might have a bad defensive quarter. We might even have a bad defensive half. We rarely, though, have bad defensive games. Rarely. And that's why we've had so few blowouts this season. It feels like we're really in every game. Defense will keep you in games. I tell this to teams that I coach because it applies to every level. Defense will keep you in games. It allows time for your offense to get into the game. Now, against certain teams that have the perfect combination, you might not have that luxury if your offense doesn't catch up. But just from my estimation, just off tops, 80% of the time, if you have a defense that's good and can consistently be good, you will have chances to win games. You will have chances. And the Clipper defense consistently gives the offense chances to win games. We often lose because of our offense. It's rarely, and there have been very few games this season where we've just not even come out to play. Very few. That game against the Nuggets that was during the fires and stuff, that was nonsense. We shouldn't even have had to play that game. But off the top of my head, especially because this year has been kind of a blur for me, I can't even think of games this season where we just didn't even flat out try. There's been so many more of those games in the 2-1-3 era. But the reason for that is because we have guys that want to guard. When it's in your skill set, when you look at Chris Dunn or Derek Jones Jr. or even a Nico, and you put their skill sets and you list their skill set on a paper, the different skills for them, defense is one of those. That is something, and there is a technique to it. There is Chris Dunn's ability to move laterally, Nico Batum's ability, just his long arms, right? His athleticism and his defensive IQ. But it's also that want to. And guys that are great defenders, it's because they're not lazy on that end of the floor. They don't take possessions off. They're engaged in what the scheme is, and they don't just watch loose balls. They attack them and stuff like that. And we have a lot of guys like that this season, and that has been, honestly, you got to give the front office some credit there with the Derrick Jones Juniors and the Nico and the Chris Dunns. But we were not great defensively in that first half. We weren't. You know what I'm saying? In terms of scheme, we started with Harden on Mikal Bridges, Zoo on Josh Hart. Same thing we did when they came to Intuit is we had Zoo on Josh Hart because we want to be able to switch pick and rolls and not have them put Zoo in the pick and pop with Cat. Now, granted, it's not nearly as lethal when you don't have Jalen Brunson as the ball handler, but let's say you have Campaign in this pick and pop with Cat, which is what they want, which is what they were trying to run. You want to be able to switch that to not give Karl Anthony Towns that wide open pick and pop, because what Zoo does is he plays drop coverage, which leaves the centers open for threes, which is why he struggles against certain pick and pop bigs. So to counter that, our coaching staff is going with Zoo guarding Josh Hart. So then you make Josh Hart the screener with Zoo in drop coverage, and you concede the open three to him. But what you do concede with that, and who we started on Cat was Kawhi. And then Chris Dunn on OG and Norm on Payne. It was usually Chris Dunn on Payne and then Norm on OG. But also, those two would switch back and forth. And then on their side, they had Josh Hart on Kawhi, OG on Harden, Campaign on Chris Dunn, Cat on Zoo, Bridges on Norm. Cat was playing drop coverage for them. But overall, just going back to our defensive side of things, I don't think we were great defensively in the first quarter. They were scoring and they were hitting at a high clip. And Cat was still getting buckets, whether it be on mismatches or catching the ball closer to the basket. And I'm usually very critical of him for catching the ball too far from the basket, making it easy for our defense. Cat was really the only guy that they could rely on to say, go create a bucket for us without Brunson. And I think that's something that's a little bit of a flaw in this Knicks offense. They scored 33 points in the first quarter to our 20. And I mainly think, we started out extremely cold, but a lot of it is, when we weren't getting stops, we weren't able to set our defense. And when we weren't able to get stops, it was letting their defense set. And I was watching on the MSG broadcast because I can't airplay. For some reason, you can't airplay the FanDuel Sports thing off your computer onto the TV. I got to just download the app. But the app can get wonky sometimes. It's FanDuel Sports Network. Anyway, I was watching on the MSG broadcast, and they kept talking about how the Clippers had no ball movement in that first quarter. No ball movement. And when we weren't getting stops, it was allowing their defense to set, and it would just become Kawhi or James Harden, ISO or pick and roll. And it was very slow, very stagnant. So we were down 13 after one, trailed by as many as 14 in the game. But we won every quarter after that. 34-22 in the second, 40-29 in the third, and 32-29 in the fourth. And I believe it really starts with the defense. In the second half, we came out we had patches of it in the second quarter. We only allowed 22 points, and we ended the quarter very well. It actually didn't feel like a great quarter, but then Harden had 5 points to end the half after he had a pretty rough first half for the most part, had some rough isolations where he either didn't get calls or just missed shots after a lot of dribbling. But defensively, we made an adjustment where we were doubling Cat in the second half because we were like, they don't really have anyone else that can create. So as long as we double and just rotate hard, let's make him make the cross-court pass. Let's let those other guys make plays. And I thought there were some really good moments of Chris Dunn anticipating where the pass would go. We took away that one pass. We took away the closest pass. The one pass away option we took away with that double team. The rotation was sharp. The doubles were hard. And that really just flustered them. And then we started scoring and allowing our defense to set. Basketball is really a simple game. You start hitting shots, you allow your defense to set, you get momentum behind you, you play better. You get stops, get your offense in transition. One thing leads to the other. It's just a sequence of things. And the Clippers, defensively, we always find a way that even if we're not great, in that first half tonight, mainly that first quarter, we're only down 1 point at half. And it felt like we were down the entire first half. Because we weren't getting enough points in the paint either. We were just not getting anything easy. Starts with our best players, in my opinion, there. But when we were able to get stops, we were able to get cross matches in transition. We were able to get some pep in our steps, some momentum behind us against a defense on their heels. And then Kawhi, James, these guys start to score. But for me, what I just admire about our team this season is that even if we're playing horribly offensively, even if we have a bad quarter or two defensively, we're going to turn it up at some point. And you're going to see the Chris Dunns of the world, the Derrick Jones Jr.'s of the world. And now with Kawhi back, he's also a guy with a defense-first attitude. Put some pressure, and then you got Zubac behind you, and then it gives us momentum. All you need is a little magic from James, Kawhi, Norm, or Zoo, or both, or more, and then you've got something going. And in this game, we got some Kawhi magic. Going to be talking about my favorite takeaway from the game coming up. I got to tell you a little something about Game Time. Game Time is the best place to get great deals last minute on tickets. There's nothing like watching basketball live. I love it. The energy of the crowd, the sound of the sneakers on the hardwood, and maybe even a celebrity sighting courtside, especially if you're out here in LA. If you want to catch a game in person, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. Game Time's new feature, Game Time Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right. Clippers winning this one at the Garden against the Knicks without Jalen Brunson, of course. We've been lucky to play them twice without Jalen Brunson, but like every team in the league has been lucky to play us without Kawhi Leonard for 5 years. So I'm not really that sympathetic, but I'm sympathetic towards Brunson, of course. Kawhi Leonard. Oh God, ladies and gentlemen. Is there anything better? And I'm not faking it. Is there anything better than watching Kawhi Leonard looking like the best version of himself with a Clipper jersey on? As a Clipper fan, is there anything better than that? I love Lob City more than anybody, or as much as anybody. I mean, exciting brand of ball. But when we talk about championship hoops, when you see Kawhi with that mid-range magic with the best defenders in the league in his face, and it doesn't even matter, like OG tonight or Bridges. Bridges is not up there, but OG. And the other night, Mobley against Cleveland. That's the test. Is what I said a couple weeks ago is when you see Kawhi start scoring consistently against the best defenders in the league, where it's Kawhi Leonard. It doesn't matter what defender you have. You can only hope to contain him. Well, we're at that point now, guys. We're at that point. Kawhi in the fourth quarter, after Harden was incredible in the third, and I'll talk about that Harden Hita in the third at the end, but he was getting to his spots. He's getting to his spots frequently. He's trying to reverse dunk that. When I saw him trying to reverse dunk, I was like, oh my God, we're here, guys. And it's this is maybe the closest since 2021 we've been to having Kawhi. Well, no, because 2023, he did go into the playoffs healthy, seemingly. And he played amazing in those first two games. But oh my God, he looked insane. He was looking insane. And he wasn't great in the first half. It was a little stagnant, at least in the first quarter, I should say. Wasn't hitting his shots, but he looked unstoppable for stretches of that fourth quarter. He and Zoo were just kind of taking over the game after Harden had just taken over the game, and you're really starting to see we got a big four. We need Norm to just slowly start showing up to the party, and this was a huge step in the right direction for him. But it all starts with Kawhi, and I'm telling you, I didn't want people to take it the wrong way when I said a couple of weeks ago or a week or two ago that without Kawhi being the best player on this team, I don't think we'll win a series. I think maybe we can beat Memphis if James Harden outplays Kawhi or looks like the best player on the team. But I don't think any team besides that we could, really. I think we need Kawhi to be that guy because the teams in the West are just good. And Harden, that's a lot for him considering what he has to do. Like, he has to play make, he has to set the table, he has to do all that and be your best scorer at 35 after all the mileage this season. Like, to beat a team in the playoffs that's usually going to have a better score than him at this stage. I know it's a team game, but I just don't think that that's going to be the case. He's done the most incredible job. He's been our MVP this season to get us here. But we need Kawhi Leonard. That's why this team is still together, because of Kawhi. And this is why. When you see him play like this, it's like, and there was one time where James came up the court. We had numbers late in the game, and I don't disagree with Harden's decision to pull it back out and waste some time. Zubac ended up getting a putback dunk on it off a James Harden missed floater. But Kawhi was yelling at him from across the court, and I could hear it, to look up and throw the ball to Zoo in transition. It was so funny. But like, I love how active and animated he seems to be right now. He's like back. And we've known now at this point with Kawhi, like, we fall for it so much. And I can't lie. I kept saying, like, we're close to me saying that we're not going to get that old Kawhi again. But I kept holding off. If you go back and check, I'm like, we still need a little bit more. And he's just started to perform at that little bit more. But I was doubting it more than ever before. And you can say shame on me, because he still just comes back at an all-NBA level. Like, what, as Law said last night, this version of Kawhi in March is all-NBA player. Maybe it's third team, but he's last 2 weeks, it's a second team, maybe even first. I'm only saying not first because I'm not watching every team, but like, guys, I just hope he can stay. I hope this is the year. I'm not saying the year to win a chip. I'm not even saying the year to go to the chip. Just give us a healthy Kawhi in a normal season with fans and not a pandemic, please. And we can go out whenever we go out. I'm just asking for a healthy Kawhi, please. Because I can promise you it's not going to be easy. That's the thing. In this game for the Claw, 27 points, and the rebounding, his activity on the glass, offensive and defensive, that's how you can tell his body's feeling better. When he's taking a guy baseline and trying to throw it down reverse, that's how you can tell he's getting better. When he's wide open on a runway and he's exploding and trying to dunk, that's when you can tell he's feeling better. What I was going to say was, we've seen now with Kawhi, there's always a period, and we fall for it every time, where when he's first coming back, he looks terrible. He looks like he can't get off the ground. He looks slow. He looks like, oh, he's washed. And everyone starts saying, Kawhi's washed. He's cooked. He's done. And then he always comes back, and then his knee flares up, and he doesn't play in the playoffs. That's been the cycle with the Clippers. But there's that period where he's playing like an all-NBA player that we've seen in 4 out of the 5 years with him before this season. And now we're starting to see it for the 5th out of the 6th year. And I'm just hoping that it carries in to 3 weeks from now. Because, ladies and gentlemen, your LA Clippers are the 6th seed because we're tied with the Warriors. And guess who's won that tiebreaker? Thank you, Zoo. Thank you, Harden. And coming up, going to talk about those two and the job they're doing. But actually, no. Let me finish off with Kawhi's stat line. I got a little too excited there. 27 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, working guys in the mid-range. How about the 7 assists to 0 turnovers from number 2? 10 for 18 from the field, extremely efficient. 2 for 6 from 3, 5 for 5 from the foul line. Shout out to my man, LA Clippers Film. I got to get him on the pod one of these days. Justin, he had that tweet about the non-rim paint field goal percentage for Kawhi. That was like at 38% a couple weeks ago, and now it's up to the 44% league average. So before you know it, it'll probably be over that, because now he's starting to get into those spots. And if you're 15 feet and closer, if you're Kawhi and he's 15 feet and closer, you either got to send help or hope he misses. Just hope. Because that hand, it doesn't matter. It's a mid-range maestro, 15 feet and in. That shot's a layup. It's high percentage, honestly. I just don't want to get too excited, Clipper Nation. I always do this. 41 minutes. Kawhi Leonard. He's back. I just, please, let Intuit Dome be the christened sanctuary that it is. And it's going to have such good juju. If the first year that we're there, Kawhi Leonard plays healthy in the playoffs, that would be such great juju for the building. Honestly, a turning of a leaf from the doldrums of Sterling and the bad luck associated with this franchise. That, even if we lose in the first or second round, the fact that Kawhi's healthy first year into it, playoffs, that just would make me feel so optimistic about things. But what a game for Kawhi. We ended up shooting 51%. And how about that fake three-point shooting? Or is it fake? It's back. 53% in this game for the boys, 16 for 30. Honestly, it's been lower volume, higher percentage, which has kind of been the blueprint for our high three-point percentage shooting seasons in the last couple of years. I think it's just like when we play with Kawhi, it's more of an inside-out approach, which is like a little more old school, but I think that's the way basketball should be played. But in today's NBA, I understand why offenses do it because they want to generate a high number of open threes, which eventually lead to more points. Again, I understand why the game is the way it is, but I just think that come playoff time, you're going to need those guys because what you saw in this game was it was pretty physical in the first half. They were bumping. The Knicks were playing physical, and they were allowing it. Like Kawhi just got straight up bumped, full speed going to the basket. They have to call those fouls, though. Those are dangerous. You know, when he's getting bumped full speed, and he still made the layup. I think you remember what I'm talking about, Clipper Nation. I think it was on the left side of the court. But just seeing Kawhi play like this and getting those high minutes is amazing. But coming up, going to talk about those guys that have been doing it all season long. Norm, Harden, Zoo. First game with all four of them with 18-plus points, baby. At least I think. All right. So, talking about this one, the Clippers winning it 126 to 113, really just turned it up defensively in the second half. You know, our lineups were a little different in this game. Last game, we saw problems with Zoo and Harden out together and Kawhi and Norm running the offense in the small ball lineup. But in this game, we saw a different approach where Zoo went out of the game with 6 minutes left in the first when we were down 18-6. So, like, we weren't even playing well. And we had Harden play with the small ball unit. And I think that's because they figure that he can create better. So then with the small ball unit, with the second quarter, we had Zoo re-enter the game with Kawhi. And I felt, you know, the whole thing with the first half was when we got stops, we were scoring. When we did not get stops, we were not scoring because our offense was really stagnant. So we had Zoo and Kawhi together in beginning of that second quarter instead of Norman Harden or Norman Kawhi like last game. It was Zoo and Kawhi instead of Norman Kawhi. Ben and Zoo played together a bit in that second quarter stretch, and I thought it didn't look great because the spacing just wasn't very good. Ben Simmons was missing shots around the basket, and Clyde Frazier was making it known. Like, that's what's held Ben Simmons back is, you know, his lack of aggression and lack of scoring around the hoop. And, you know, he's not wrong. But I mentioned Harden's isolations in that second quarter, in that first half were just rough, just a lot of step back threes that didn't go in or stagnant possessions. But then he had those 5 points to end the half that gave us some momentum. Third quarter, talked about sending the doubles at Towns, but Norman Powell continued to hit shots. And yesterday when Law Murray came on the show, we mentioned that Norm hadn't hit 2 threes in a game since the Utah game. Well, in this game, he was 4 for 5 from 3. This was the balance tonight. 27 from Kawhi, 29 from Harden, 18 from Zoo, and 19 from Norm. That's championship balance. That's 126 points. Our defense needed to be better first half. And you know what's something that's to note? Amir Coffey, DNP, coach's decision. Ty Lue made that decision. Are all the people that... Let me just analyze that first, though. I don't mind if Amir doesn't play in the playoffs. We'd be going 9 deep with Bogey, Ben, Derek, and Nico. I honestly don't mind that at all. But if we want to go 10 deep, I think Amir's a better candidate than Kobe Brown or Drew Eubanks or Patty Mills or any of those guys. But I don't mind. I think, how can you look at this game and say this wasn't a well-coached game from the Clippers side? I know the offense is what it is and it's stagnant, but it's really the personnel, Clipper Nation. Like, it's really, you have a low post guy in Zoo. He's not like a high post playmaker that guys can cut off of. Kawhi is up. He's like, you see, I love Kawhi's game, but like compared to the likes of the guys that played in the triangle, Mike and Kobe, who I believe, and this is the biggest compliment I can give Kawhi. In that lineage of players that play that way, I think Kawhi and are that great. I would put Kawhi in that lineage. Jordan, Kobe, Kawhi. I'm dead serious. He's different personality-wise, but in terms of their game, and who's Kawhi's favorite 2 players ever? Jordan and Kobe. So he clearly took a lot from them, worked with Kobe and all that. The one thing I'll say about him, though, is that he dribbles way more than those guys when he ISOs. He dribbles way more than those guys when he ISOs, and he plays in an era with more spacing. Um, but I'm gonna say this: he's not a guy that's like you're gonna get in movement a ton. He had a nice cut today. He'll have a couple of nice cuts here and there because he's intelligent. He's got a great basketball IQ. But he's not like a guy that works quickly off the catch quick, rip through. There was one time today, though, where it's another one of those plays where I was like, oh, my God. He caught in the post, and he spun right away. It was an ISO, but he spun right away. You just won't usually see him in movement the way you will see like a Paul George. And then Harden is Harden. He's an ISO king. He's a pick-and-roll god. He's not a guy that's going to move off the ball. So the team is not going to be a motion team. We're going to be an ISO-heavy team, but it's efficient ISOs, right? That's what we're going to be. The thing is, it's on the players to get the ball moving a little bit and not just go one pass possession. Like, we can get into our pick and rolls. And because when Ty gets to call sets, they usually have some passes behind it before we get into the action. It's a lot of times when we're just not calling stuff, and he's given the privilege, and this happens in the NBA a lot, most of the time, is like on a missed basket or some made baskets, you're not just listening to the coach every time. If you have a guy like a Halliburton or LeBron or Luka or Harden or Chris Paul, you let them call it out and get into it. And our offense isn't that crazy. It's not that crazy complex. It doesn't have to be. We have 4 guys that can go out there and get 20 plus any given night. And James Harden, the way he turned up in that third quarter was next level. He had, and I was going to say this about Kawhi, Mike Breen and Clyde Frazier, 2 of the best in the game. I've been listening to so many of the away broadcasts lately because, as I said, you can't airplay from the FanDuel, and I want to like watching the TV sometimes. But it's been great to hear other broadcasters' perspectives on our team. And they're very complimentary of guys like Harden and Kawhi just because of what they've done in the league. You know what I'm saying? They were so complimentary of Kawhi tonight. And I know that's going to appeal to somebody like Clyde, like a two-way player like that. Like, the old legends of the game really respect Kawhi Leonard as far as the game part of it. Of course, there's a very murky waters with the load management stuff. I think Kawhi obviously gets a little bit of a bad rap for that. A lot by certain heads in the media. I'm just talking about ex-players because it seems like they really do respect Kawhi because, people know how hard it is to win. The players in the league know how hard it is to win championships. And Kawhi's got one of the highest win percentages of all time. But he also is a guy that does not take games off defensively, and he's a star. And I think that's like something that people admire a lot, like players. And, as a fan, of course we admire that. But James Harden, 16 third quarter points. The end of the third quarter was just a Harden heater. They call them the Curry flirties. We got the Harden heaters. 3 straight threes. 2 of them were step backs, 1 on the wing. And then on the last play, drive and kick to Nico, right wing 3. And then he drove, missed. Ben Simmons put it back in at the buzzer. 16 third quarter points for James. He just completely turned the whole game around there. And then in the fourth quarter, how about Zoo? Put back Dunk City. Sealed the game with a dunk. Ferocious dunks, rebounding, post-ups, floaters in the lane. His touch is just impeccable. Like, Zoo Shaq, Zoo Alcindor, Zoo Bots. He is just amazing. And then how about Nico Batum? How about a little Nico Batum? Are we going to give Ty Lue credit? I'm just going to say, are we going to give Ty Lue credit for the double team? Are we going to give Ty Lue credit for the putting? Let's see what Cat finished with. He actually shot really well. 34 points, 14 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals on 11 for 20 shooting, 4 for 7 from 3, and 8 for 10 from the foul line for Cat. And OG had 28 points on 11 for 17 shooting and 3 for 5 from 3. And they still lost. Mikal Bridges had 17, Cameron Payne had 15. They just got nothing from the bench. They have no depth, and they don't have Brunson. And Tibbs, he's going to play all his starters to death. They don't have Deuce McBride either in this game. How about old Clipper Landry Shamet? One of the biggest shots in Clipper history. Yeah, our bench was just way better. Derrick Jones Jr. by himself was way better. 12 points, 6 rebounds, 1 block on 5 for 8 shooting, 1 for 3 from deep, 1 for 1 from the foul line, got an and 1, was everywhere, man. Love Derrick Jones Jr. He's been such a great addition. Cuts, plays hard, runs the floor, vertical threat, plays D. Like, he's not the best 3-point shooter. Boo-hoo. He still makes enough, to be honest. But how about Nico, though? Like, are we not going to give Ty credit, though, like when things go well? Because our defensive game plan was pretty good, I thought, in the second quarter especially. The second half especially. We were doubling hard. I know in the first half you can say he didn't coach a good game. His rotations were a little suspect, but we won the game. He tried something different. Everyone's going to find a way to complain. We tried something different. What matters is the players playing to their best level. In the second half, though, we doubled Cat in the post. took that one pass away, and are just, defensive tenacity was just, and attention to detail and physicality was so much better. And not playing Amir Coffey, giving Nico his minutes. How good was Nico? His defense was unbelievable. His rim protection, the way he can somehow you think he's blown by. He's been blown by, and then out of nowhere, he comes from behind and gets the block. It's remarkable. I love Nico. 6 points, 1 rebound on 2 for 2 shooting and made both his threes. James Harden at 29 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 blocks, 2 turnovers on 8 for 16 shooting and 6 for 9 from 3 and 7 for 8 from the foul line. I mean, in the second half, he was crazy, but to shoot 50, 66 from the field in 3, my God, he's just balling in March, Harden. And the fact that he even played this game, my goodness, got to give him a lot of credit for that. Chris Dunn. I mean, obviously his shooting is not great. 1 for 5 from 3. His shooting is not great from 3. He was 1 of 5 from 3, but he was 3 for 8 from the field. 9.6 assists, 3 rebounds. I just think our defense, he's ineligible, by the way, for all defensive team, but it begins with him. And it ends with Zoo. How about 18 and 10? Just another night at the office. 18 and 10, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 2 turnovers on 7 for 15 shooting, 4 for 6 from the foul line. How about the fact that he's getting up 15 plus shots more regularly now? I love it. And Kawhi's back. So 27 and 10 from Kawhi, 18 and 10 from Zoo, 29, 6 and 6 from Harden. And then Norm, his best game back since the injury, 19 points, 1 rebound, 2 assists, 2 steals on 7 for 12 shooting and 4 for 5 from 3, 1 for 2 from the foul line. You started seeing foul baiting Norm again. And when you see foul baiting Norm, you know that he's probably feeling pretty good. So really good win for us tonight. Really good win. Derrick Jones, can't say enough about everybody, honestly. Can't say enough about everybody. The MSG broadcast had so much praise for Kawhi and Harden. So much. Shout out to Mike Breen and Clyde Frazier. Frazier said it best. He was like, the Harden show, I think it was the Harden magic in the third quarter and the Leonard magic in the fourth quarter. And Zubac. And, I mean, that's starting to feel like the best version of this team. This was one step closer to the best version of this team. A big 4, legit. So please hope that if you're other teams, please hope Kawhi's knee flares up because you don't want to see us in that first round. And ladies and gentlemen, we might still get that 6th seed. We might still get it. What a good win. How about the Norm 3 to seal it when the Knicks kind of made a little push at the end? Big time. But you know what's funny too, is the small ball lineup in the second half actually held their own. That was really pleasant to see because I'm trying to look at when Zubac came out. Zoo came out and it was a tie game with 5:26 to go in the third quarter. And we were able to create a double-digit advantage, without Zoo in the game. And then let's see when Zoo came back in. Zoo came back in with 6:48 to go in the game. We were already up 17. So it worked. And it starts with Kawhi and Harden isolation matchup hunting, honestly. So there you go. It ends with Kawhi and Harden. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dime Dropper Pod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, where I did a comprehensive recap of the last 10 games of the Clippers and the state of the team, I guess, on Dime Dropper. And then Locked On Clippers, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and hit the notification bell. We're trying to hit 7,000 subscribers before the end of the regular season. So please, we're going to be in the playoffs. So let's get there. And of course, the newsletter, lockedondaily.com to find it. Lockedondaily.com. I write it every day, so please check it out. The age-old proverb continues, go Clippers.